URPG Story Podcast number 1. Yeah. Welcome, URPG listeners and Pokemon listeners and anybody else who happens to be listening into this. My name is Ricky. I'm 19. I never fucking learned how to read. And actually I did, because if I didn't know how to read, this podcast video showcase thing would actually not go so well. But my name is Ricky, and I am 19, and I have been a member of URPG for next year in July will be 2 years. So yeah, that's a thing that happened. So little over about a half a year now. And ever since I started, I knew that my strong suit was going to be writing, because my strong suit has always been writing. And I realized that there were really cool stories and stuff on the website, but not really a whole lot of like exposure, I guess you could say, for these stories. There wasn't really a whole lot of like people talking about the stories. Like, there was a lot of, of course the graders get to the stories, but there wasn't really a whole lot of discussion about the stories, and I wanted to change that, and I thought that maybe making this little podcast thingy where I read people's stories out loud may encourage more people to actually go and read them, and possibly even write their own in hopes of getting on the podcast, or just in hopes of catching a Pokemon. If you are new to this and don't quite know how URPG works, URPG stands for Ultra Roleplay Game. It's a Pokemon-based role-playing game, and it takes place on 2 forums, Pokemon Crossroads and Petalburg Woods. You can find them in the link in this video, which I'm going to post in the description. And it's actually pretty fun. You can capture Pokemon in a multitude of ways. One of these ways is by writing a story of the required character count. We count by characters and not by words. So you don't have to worry about writing like a 75,000 word story to capture one Pokemon. You may have to write a 75,000 character story to capture a Pokemon. But you may not necessarily have to write 75,000 words unless you really feel like you want to. And in that case, I would suggest posting it in chapters instead of all at once, because, be nice to the graders. The graders are the ones who decide whether you capture the Pokemon or not after you've written it. And generally, graders are pretty nice. Like, I mean, it's kind of in the rule book for them to be nice, even if they don't really think the story's that great, I guess. But, they aren't gonna be like, oh my god, this is trash, you should never write again, stop writing forever, never write ever again. They're not gonna say that. They're gonna be constructively kind. Like, they're not just gonna be like, oh my god, it was so perfect and amazing, there's nothing that you could do to make it better, and I've never read a better story in my life. That's not really what they're gonna, like, they're in the middle of the 2 extremes. Like, they'll point out what you did right, of course, and then they'll point out kind of what you can improve on. Not necessarily what you did wrong, because what's right and wrong is subjective in writing. Instead, what they'll do is they'll point out what you did right and what you may need to improve on. So far, I've posted 4, I think, stories to the forums, and they are going to eventually be read on this podcast, because I don't really have too much, like, people aren't really saying that I can use their stories, so mine will definitely be read at some point. And of course other people's that I find interesting and that people give me permission to post. So if you are a member of URPG and you're listening to this right now, it would be a really good idea for you to either message me on Discord or message me on the forums. I'm Luckandor on the forums. And ask if you can have your story read. It has to be yours. If it's not yours, then I'm going to have to ask the person who wrote it for their permission. I'm also going to be featuring art on this podcast, and art is going to go by the same rules. It's going to go, I have to make sure I have to get permission from the person first, and all that good stuff to make sure that I'm not, like, you know, infringing on anybody's property, because I don't want to steal stuff from people. That's bad. So to start this podcast off, this first episode is just going to be me, like, kind of talking about myself, introducing myself to you guys, and getting questions from you guys and suggestions and whatnot. And there'll probably be another video either up tomorrow or later tonight or early in the morning today, because I don't sleep ever. I don't sleep at a reasonable time. I should say, not that I don't sleep ever, I just not at a reasonable time. But I'm going to go through and look at some questions some people have asked me. I'm going to answer them and see what people have to ask me. So, Tyther on Discord asked me, do I like hot or cold showers? And the answer is I like hot showers. I need them really hot, because otherwise I just don't feel clean. I don't feel clean taking a cold shower, and also I don't like taking cold showers. They're cold, and I do not like being cold. I enjoy being hot. So, I like to be hot. And Cynthia Dawn Seno Evie on Discord asked me, yeah, he has a long name, what's your favorite Pokemon? And my favorite Pokemon is Charizard. Just kidding. No, it's not. My favorite Pokemon is Sylveon, because I'm transgender and Sylveon has a transgender colors. And Sylveon's also really cool, and Sylveon is a fairy, and I like fairies. And it also is an evolved form of Eevee, and Eevee is my second favorite Pokemon, so that works too. My starter in URPG was actually a Eevee that I evolved into a Sylveon named Lyra, and Lyra will show up in the series of stories I plan on writing. I plan on writing a series of stories with my character Dictator. Some of you people have heard of Dictator before, but they are a Pokemon trainer, and they are also an immortal homunculus, and that's fun. And they think they're a god, so a lesser god, but a god nonetheless. And they feature in many of my stories, so that's gonna definitely be a thing that happens. And I've also written crossover stories, mainly for Hitalia. I'm currently in the process of writing an SCP Pokemon crossover, so if any of you guys like SCP, definitely, tune in for that, because that's going to be fun. Sorry for the noise, if there is any. Nobody asked me this question, but I think I should just go ahead and say it. Like, my favorite, like, type of stories to write is definitely LGBT romance. That's like my favorite genre, I guess you could say. Micro genre is more like it, but the big genre I prefer writing for is like adventure. Like, I like things where characters are going on an adventure where they're doing stuff. Oh boy. Like, I also kind of like fantasy, but not like super high fantasy. Like, once it starts getting into like, the micro differences between dwarves and elves is when I start to get disinterested. However, I do like a healthy dose of fantasy. My favorite story so far that I've written for URPG has to be Monarchy. And some of you may know Monarchy because it is a Pokemon Hitalia crossover with Omegaverse elements. And I promise you, the Omegaverse is important, and it's also not, like, gross. Like, it's not, like, gross Omegaverse. It's, because some of you probably know what Omegaverse is. If you don't know what it is, I suggest that you Google it and look it up, because it's really hard to explain. I don't want to spend the entire video explaining what Omegaverse is. But, it plays an important role in the story, but it's more for world building than it is for anything else. And it's not explicit, so if you want to read it, then you can read it. I will probably be reading it here on the podcast at some point. Because it is a really good story, and the grader who graded it really liked it, and a lot of other people said I did a really good job with it, so I'm really excited to share that with the world. As for art, I haven't really been involved in the art scene in URPG because I can't draw, But I've been thinking about possibly opening up some like requests just for me to practice my skills, because I do need to do that. The only way to get better is to do it repeatedly and fail at it repeatedly and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until you get sick of it and then keep doing it some more. So that's what I'm planning on doing. And if you guys have any requests for anything for me to draw, you can drop it in the comment section if you want. Furthermore, if you have a request for anything for me to write, you can also drop it in the comment section. And there will probably be a part 2 to this video, just so you know. There'll probably be a part 2, and I'll probably be, answering some more questions, and also exactly what this podcast is and everything. And so I'm gonna cut it off right here. And I hope you all have a lovely day, and enjoy your weekend, whatever it is. I don't remember what day of the week it is, but hope you enjoy your week and have fun, be safe, and don't do drugs. Bye.